Every website Ash has ever started has been somehow about feet, which is really interesting.
My feet are very important to me. Hiking is my favorite thing, so.
This is the Exploring the National Parks podcast with Dirt in My Shoes. My name is Ash, and I'm a former park ranger and the founder of Dirt in My Shoes. I think that the parks are best seen from the trail, and I'm here to make national park trip planning easy.
And I'm John. I carry the kids on the trails, I tell stories, and notice all the things that Ash doesn't care about much, like trees.
Join us as we show you around America's spectacular national parks.
We're sharing our favorite places, fun facts, adventures, and misadventures.
And we'll even throw in a little trip planning.
Let's start exploring.
So the funniest thing happened yesterday while I was working on the Canyonlands itinerary. And so I was working on one of the articles to go with Canyonlands, the Druid Arch Trail Guide. Which is like the coolest trail in the world. I love that trail.
I know. It's so adventurous. You feel like Indiana Jones the whole time.
You do. I know. And so I'm like writing about it and I'm like, I wonder how tall this arch actually is because I actually didn't know. And so I go into Google and I put it into search. And of course they have that stupid AI snippet at the top. I hate AI. So I go in and it has the AI at the top and it says, that Druid Arch is 450 feet tall. And I'm like looking at it and I'm like, there's no way it's this tall. And so then I start like combing through the rest of the results and there's all these articles that pop up that say Druid Arch is 450 feet tall. And I was like, no, like there's absolutely no way that this arch is 450 feet tall.
Right.
And then finally I find there's just a couple sources that said 150 feet. And I was like, okay, that seems so much better.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
But I went into John's office and I'm like, please tell me that like Druid Arch is not 450 feet tall. Like I'm not going insane, right? It's not that tall. And John, of course, is like, no, that's really tall.
I was like,
it's way
that's
too tall.
Like Devil's Tower or more height. And I was like, I'm pretty sure that arch, nothing as you're hiking through the Needles area is that tall. Like, and so 450 feet would be pretty spectacular. And it already is spectacular, but it's not like blow me away, like off the planet spectacular.
I know. So I went in and I was looking because I was like, I think Druid Arch was like maybe about twice as tall-ish as Delicate Arch and arches. Delicate Arch is like 60.
Exactly. And so if there was a 450-foot arch, you better believe that people from all over the planet are going to be coming here to hike this remote arch. You know, the parking lot will need to be 7 times larger.
Well, you would be able to see it from the parking lot at that point, I think.
You'd be able to see it from space, basically. You'd be able to see the shadow, you know, falling off of the arch.
I know. So I was like, I just wanted to point that out because I personally hate all the AI stuff that's coming out and like scraping websites and making it so that people don't actually have to have any experience before they write stuff. Because I was like, oh my gosh, how many bloggers saw that AI snippet or used like ChatGPT to write their article and it picked up somewhere that it's 450 feet tall. That's like half the Eiffel Tower, okay? That's like taller than Big Ben in London. So
I know, crazy. But in our sphere, like we're in the information sphere, providing people with proper information. That's where AI becomes a problem because if it's just aggregating, okay, let's see. So 2 sources say 150 feet, but 8 sources say 450 feet. It's probably safe. Let's go with the majority here, not realizing that 6 of those 8 that said it was 450 tall, they were all written by an AI.
I know.
Basically. And so it's just it's a snowballing problem. And so it seems like to me, now having a trusted source is more important than ever.
Well, so this is my friendly reminder that Dirt in My Shoes is not written with AI.
Right.
When I went to write that article and I saw that it was saying 450 feet, I have been to that arch. I love that hike. And so I, in my mind, was like, there's no way. And that's something AI can't do.
Yet, until robots go and scale Druid Arch.
I know.
But
I know. So 150 is a super impressive height for an arch, by the way. And it's a freestanding arch, which is crazy. Like 150 feet for a freestanding arch, that's insane. So go to Druid Arch. It's so cool. But I just wanted to point out that I hate AI. Thus, Dirt in My Shoes, like all the articles you'll find, everything, like it's me. It's me from my own personal experience. It's all the stuff that you need to know from actually being there, not just like typing a prompt into a little robot computer.
I know, which is really all you need to do to write an article these days.
I know.
Just be like, write me an article about Druid Arch. And they don't even fact check anything. The humans don't, at least.
Nope. And it will say it's 450 feet tall.
I know. We should have tried it. We should write one and just publish it and say April Fools or something like that.
Oh my gosh, it was killing me. So anyway, that's my funny experience from yesterday. Be sure to check your sources, people.
Yes.
It's very important.
Yes.
Today, though, we are doing another Mail from the Trail episode.
Yes.
And this episode is actually going to be a little bit different because I went on to my Insta stories at Dirt in My Shoes and I asked you guys for some fresh questions because I know a lot of you right now, I mean, it's the beginning of December. You're probably not really in trip planning mode quite yet. You're probably not really thinking about a lot of things. So I wanted to get some questions that are on your mind, like right now during this weird time of year. It's like the holiday season. And
right. When most people aren't thinking about this stuff, so you can kind of get a jump on the ball. Can you mix those metaphors?
No, that was a terrible.
Yes.
So anyway, these are some questions that I got off of Instagram from you guys. Generally, though, if you have a question for us for the Mail from the Trail episode, just go to dirtinmyshoes.com/podcast, and there's a form on that page that you can fill out, and it will go straight to me or our podcast producer, Emily, and we'll make sure that we take care of that question in some way, shape, or form. But today, so let's jump right in. I have question number 1 here, and this is from Morgan. And Morgan says, can you help us navigate the Junior Ranger program? We went to a national monument and my son accidentally got the packet for older kids and spent the whole time filling out the packet rather than looking around and experiencing it. So that's happened to us. Here's the thing. I love the Junior Ranger program. I love it. It is so fun that the kids can earn badges and collect those. It's turned into another type of souvenir that our kids get from the parks. But I also sometimes really hate it because sometimes it can kind of turn into more of a chore. Like, we got to get all this done so you can get your badge, and we've got other things we need to do. And, you know, we're going to go on this hike and we're running out of time and we got to hurry and get to the visitor center before it closes, or we got to wait in an hour-long line.
I know. And some Junior Ranger programs take themselves a little too seriously.
Yes.
I think.
Yeah.
which then you're like finding super detailed information when really you just want the kids to kind of appreciate what they're seeing.
They just want to do
like
a maze. Or something.
Exactly. But I actually have learned a lot of things from the Junior Ranger programs myself. But if they take it a step or 2 or maybe 3 too far, then you have the same experiences as this person. And it can be unfortunate.
Yeah. So what I thought of when I read through your question, I was thinking, okay, a couple things that we do. Usually we will try to get to the visitor center like towards the very beginning of our trip, so that we can pick up the book and the kids can work on it over the course of a couple days if possible, versus just trying to do it all at once. Sometimes, like we just went to the Big Hole National Battlefield in Montana, and we were only planning on being there for a couple hours, and a giant portion of those couple of hours were the kids doing their Junior Ranger stuff. And so sometimes it's not possible to spread it out over a few days. And by the way, that badge was super cool. It was metal.
Yeah. And sometimes you go to a place and the badge is just like the generic arrowhead. And I'm like, come on, you had some really cool options here besides just generic Junior Ranger.
We've gotten snooty with our Junior Ranger badges.
It's true.
But anyway, so usually we'll try to pick it up at the beginning, and then we take our books with us. Like, I make the kids work on them in the car, because a lot of times, like, you don't actually have to be in the visitor center to answer the questions, or you don't have to be anywhere specific. It's just, they need to draw a picture of something. That's the type of stuff I make them do in the car. We'll make them do it like while we're sitting and waiting for our table at a restaurant or for our food to come. We always make sure we have those books with us so the kids have something to work on while we're waiting, stuff like that. And then I will always kind of thumb through it and be like, okay, like this one needs to be done on a trail. We'll make sure that we pay attention to this while we're hiking today, stuff like that.
Right. And sometimes, which is really nice, is if they have like a 12-page Junior Ranger book or something like that, oftentimes you only have to do 4 or 5 pages. And so having the kids go through it themselves, find the fun ones they want to do, and then they get to the point where then Ash or I will go through it and be like, okay, this is where you need help. By that time, they may have already done 1 or 2, maybe 3 pages. It really works out well if you do it that way and you get the book at the beginning of your trip.
Yeah. And then the other thing that you said was that they gave him the wrong book. They gave him the book for older kids, which is going to be much harder.
Very unfortunate. There's no way around that one.
It is. So that's just a good reminder to everybody. Usually the park rangers will ask how old your kid is when they're giving them the book and make sure they're giving them the right book. But if they don't say anything or they don't explain it very well, or you get looking at it and it's like, this is not the right book, then make sure, you're checking that too, because you definitely don't want to frustrate your child by having them do activities that are too hard or just not fun for them.
Exactly. Oh, that's the worst. And you want the kids to think it's fun too. If it's too advanced for them, then it's just going to be a major chore. So unfortunately, the ranger is the X factor that you can't change. If they don't ask, you're going to have to step in. So it just takes a little bit of the parent is going to have to quality control that situation.
The other thing is we make sure our kids pretty much only do the very bare minimum to get their badge, and then we'll go turn it in. So hopefully, we've done what we can in a day or 2, and then we can go turn it in pretty fast. And then we'll have them keep their book and do other activities if they want. So while we're driving to the next park or while we're on the airplane or whatever, a lot of times our kids are like, but I wanted to do that one. And it's like, that's fine. You can do it later. We're not going to do it right now. We're just going to go get your badge right now, and then you can work on it whenever. So we used to have like a big collection of Junior Ranger books that weren't finished in our truck with us, and the kids would just kind of thumb through them and do activities as we drove to the various parks too, after they had already gotten their badges. So
what Ash is saying is no overachievers. We do not want any Junior Ranger overachievers.
Not if we want to maintain a balance for everybody to enjoy their time in the park.
Exactly. Junior Ranger books
important to me.
are to help parents have children that are seen and not heard, at places like restaurants and things like that.
My favorite is when you go up and they give you the book and then they also slip you the badge at the same time. Yeah. Some parks will do that where they're like, here, Mom and Dad, like, don't worry about coming back. Here's the badge. So when your kids finish the stuff, you can just give it to them. Mm-hmm. Sometimes that's really nice. Sometimes like it's really cool for them to get sworn in and stuff like that. But my efficiency level a lot of times gets frustrated with the program, because it's like, oh my gosh, this is taking forever. And oh my gosh, like she's talking to those people for so long and I don't want to wait in this line and
oh my gosh,
stuff like that.
It's
so
true.
That's another tip too. If you're short on time, then it's worth maybe asking the ranger, even if it's not something they normally do. It doesn't hurt to ask, to say, hey, like we've only got an hour here. We're going to do it. I promise. But like, is there a way I can just get the badge now so we don't have to come back and wait in line when he's done? That's worth the ask too.
Especially at smaller parks where they probably do that fairly frequently.
They have limited resources anyway. They'll probably only have one person working the desk. So
exactly. And if there's a giant line of people asking questions, they will probably be grateful to you for asking that question.
Please don't make us get in line again.
Thank you for reducing my workload. I really appreciate it. You're the best of parents.
As I'm contemplating our conversation on Junior Ranger programs, I'm realizing that I might be a little intense on the let's just get in, get out mentality for this.
Yeah.
But it has been really fun for the kids. I will say that. And it's fun to see them learn things. And like John said, we learn things and then they have a cool souvenir to take home with them. So
exactly.
Great question, Morgan.
Okay. So the next question comes to us from Ashley. Thank you for submitting this, Ashley. What are the best parks to visit during March or spring break time period?
Okay, so I got this question like from 3 different people this week. Not even when I asked for any questions. Like I've got this question in my inbox a couple times and I just got a DM about it. And then I got this question when I asked. So you guys are thinking about spring break.
Yes. Good for you, by the way.
I know.
Those are Dirt in My Shoes people.
I know. We love you so much.
Mega planners. That's what we call you. We call you mega planners because you fit into we prepare for the spring and summer before the year even starts. Yep. Those are our people.
So awesome. So you want to know best parks to visit in March. And like I said, a few people have asked me this question. And so I have my list right here. This is it's a very rough draft. I have notes everywhere like this, but this is the trip that we took 2 years ago over spring break. It was the end of March, beginning of April. And these parks are parks that we are usually in at that time. So this particular trip, we took 2 weeks and we went to a whole bunch, but you could easily just pick like 1 or 2 or 3 for your trip if you want to cut it down. But these are the parks that you will find us in these parks pretty much every March and April. We'll be somewhere in this area. So my list of favorite parks, and like I said, these are the parks you will find us in. So this is from completely personal experience, no AI. We're based in Utah. We're in the Salt Lake City area. And so we will go from there usually to Page, Arizona, where you will find Glen Canyon National Recreation Area. You can hike to Horseshoe Bend. You can go through Antelope Canyon. That's really popular. You can go to Lee's Ferry. That's really like the beginning of the Grand Canyon. And so it's a really cool area. There's a lot to do. Rainbow Bridge is out there. All of those, except for Antelope Canyon, are all national park sites. So we do like to spend a little bit of time there. And then from there, so honestly, from there, you're pretty close to the North Rim of the Grand Canyon, but the North Rim is closed in March and April. You'll have to skip the North Rim. If you want to go to the South Rim, that's open. We've been to the South Rim in March. It was cold.
It's so beautiful, though. One of my favorite things about Grand Canyon in the off season is the red rock is so pretty with a dusting of snow.
Yeah.
Which it often has.
You just don't have the crowds either. The weather is a little on the chilly side, but it's not nearly as busy. So we actually do like the South Rim at that time. So you could add that in. We didn't on this particular trip just because we're at the Grand Canyon all the time. So
right.
But anyway, so after that, that's when we went to Petrified Forest National Park. That's a really great one. You can spend a day or 2 out there. And then we head to Saguaro down in Tucson, Arizona. So the southern part of Arizona. That one is perfect that time of year. We've been there that time of year, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 times.
It's the best. And we've been there closer to the beginning, closer to the end of like what you would consider spring. And man, the later you go, the hotter it just gets intense. And so it's the perfect spring location. Yeah,
March is awesome in Saguaro. It's so good.
And there's nothing better to me. I don't know. Maybe it's because I love Western movies, but I love finding the opportunity to go and photograph or walk through some of the trails at sunset with the saguaros. Totally a picturesque Western scene.
It is, and the weather is so nice at that time of year. So we love being down there. The Phoenix area is really nice at that time of year too. So if you want to do like Sedona or something like that, we've done that around that time too. Not national parks, but you'll be passing kind of right through there as you drive from Petrified Forest down to the bottom of Arizona. So when you're in northern Arizona, it definitely is colder, not as ideal. It does get more snow and stuff. Page is usually pretty nice that time of year though. But Petrified Forest, it might be a little cold. You get down to Tucson, you get down to Saguaro, that's when you're like in the 70s, 80s. Like it's so nice. It's perfect. We love to go to Tombstone while we're out there.
Yeah, we do. Talk about Western experiences.
Yeah.
It's
So
the
we'll do that.
best.
And what's nice is Tombstone is on the way to the next national park we usually visit while we're down there, which is White Sands. So you can drive from Saguaro to White Sands. You can stop at Tombstone. You can stop at Chiricahua, which is a national monument down there. Oregon Pipe Cactus, that's the opposite direction, but that's down there if you just want to stay in the Tucson area. That's really cool. So many options. How many have I given you already? So then we like to go to White Sands, and White Sands is really nice that time of year. I would say the only thing you have to worry about in White Sands is the spring wind. So it does get a little bit windier in that area in the spring, and sometimes the road that you have to drive to get over there can close if the winds are really high.
Or if they're testing missiles or something.
Well, but they always do that. They do that year round.
That's true.
So that's not a spring thing, but the winds kind of are a spring thing. So you want to keep that in mind. And then from White Sands, we like to go down to Big Bend, which is at the Texas-Mexico border, right on the Rio Grande River. It's amazing. Wouldn't you say that's probably one of our favorite spring destinations?
I love Big Bend. The weather is great. There's some really good birding at Big Bend because it's a stopover spot for a lot of birds. And I don't know, it's so great in so many different ways. There's lots of different ecosystems. You can visit the river, you can see the desert, you can see the mountains. And so it just gives you everything in one destination.
It does. And it takes a while to get there, and there's really not much else there. So we'll do Big Bend and maybe the next two parks, which I'll talk about in a minute. We'll kind of do those together as a trip. But I like to give Big Bend at least 3 days-ish if I'm going to drive all the way down there.
Yeah.
It's worth the time. There's enough to do, but it does take a while to get there. So.
And it takes a while to get around because it's such a big park. And there's a lot of drive time. And so you don't want to spend your whole time in the car. You'll want to kind of enjoy the 3 days and choose a section to explore for one day, do this section, one day, do that section. It'll keep you out of the car, get you outside, especially when your body is like yearning for summer and warm weather. It's the perfect place to go.
It is. It's so fun. So Big Bend, and then we'll drive up to Guadalupe Mountains, which is the other Texas National Park. That one it's very unique. It doesn't need a lot of time, but it's definitely worth if you're already in that Big Bend, White Sands area. It's kind of just right there. So Guadalupe Mountains, that one has some great hiking. Again, like it's a very unique ecosystem and landscape.
It's the tallest mountains in Texas.
I know.
Good
And it's an old, like it's an ancient reef.
Yeah.
So
the story behind
cool.
it is so cool.
Which one did we? Oh, the fossils episode.
The fossils episode, we really touched on.
We talked about this.
Yeah. It's such a cool place.
So that's a favorite. And then Carlsbad Caverns is only like a half an hour from Guadalupe Mountains. They're very close. So we'll do both of those. And Carlsbad Caverns is my favorite cave system in the national park. I love Carlsbad Caverns. So that one's a great one to do.
They're so well decorated. It doesn't even matter what the weather is outside, really. It could be hot, it could be cold. It's always the same temperature in the cave. And so it's a perfect addition for a spring destination.
And the weather's usually pretty nice that time of year, too. So we'll do Big Bend, Guadalupe Mountains, and Carlsbad Caverns. We've done those ones in a separate trip before, like just those ones. So again, that's like a good, if you're just looking for a week for spring break, that's a pretty good option there. And then from there, so this last trip that we took, we headed up to Albuquerque, and then we crossed over. We went to Chaco Canyon, which is a national historic site. It's really cool. It's Native American stuff, just an awesome display of Native American buildings. So much history there. So we really love that. And then from there, you're not too far from Mesa Verde. We've been to Mesa Verde quite a few times. I've been there so many times, actually. We were fine just popping in there during the spring to see some stuff. For Mesa Verde, I would skip that one if it's your first time, because a lot of the tours and stuff aren't running in March. You can just, if you want to pop in and see it, but there's not going to be a whole lot to do at that time of year, probably.
But there is a whole lot of Native American stuff that you can do in this area. From the Chaco Canyon up to Mesa Verde, there's so much that you could fit in. And so if you can't do Mesa Verde at that time, it's not even a big deal because there's so much stuff around it. And especially if you got to Chaco Canyon.
And this time we went to Bears Ears, which is in southern Utah, and we hiked to the House on Fire, which was really cool. We went to Natural Bridges, which is a national monument that's just these giant arches or natural bridges that are really cool. So there's some awesome stuff to do in that area. As you get into southern Utah around that time of year, it is a little bit chillier. It's not like really warm spring weather, but it is actually, I would say probably March, April is my favorite time to be in that area of Utah. And then also Arches and Canyonlands are right up that direction.
Right.
Again, like you might hit some patches of ice when you're out hiking. There might be a little bit of snow still on the ground in the shade, not in the sunny areas, but in the shady areas. Sometimes there's some lingering ice.
Yes.
But that, I think, is one of my very favorite times to be in Arches and Canyonlands as well.
Yeah, I agree. Because otherwise you're struggling with the extreme heat, or the fall break is kind of hard to get around. And so I love the spring.
Yeah, there's a million people that still go to those parks in the fall.
Mm-hmm.
Spring is much quieter.
Yes, it's so great.
Until like mid-April or the beginning of May, then it starts getting really busy again. But it's like February, March, it stays pretty nice and quiet. So we love being there then.
Yeah, but this is like the furthest north that you could probably finagle in the spring at that time period without really wrestling with a lot of snow, I think.
Yeah, I mean, this last trip, we went to Capitol Reef on the same trip, just on our way back home.
Mm-hmm.
And it actually was fine, although we have been there that time of year before where we froze our butts off, and it's kind of miserable.
Yes, exactly.
So that one's a little iffy. Zion is great. Actually, if you want to add that in somewhere, that's a good option too. We will typically go to Zion in February just to get somewhere warmer than where we live. So that's a good option too. But any of those parks, any of those places, you can make shorter road trips out of it. You can just go to one if you just want to experience one. But those are our favorite national parks to visit in March.
Okay, this next question comes to us from Elisa. What national park offers the best trails for snowshoeing? That's hard.
I have my favorites.
Yes. Well, I know one of yours. We could probably just copy paste Grand Teton into just about any question someone answers. What's best for this? Yeah. What's best for Grand Teton? Grand Teton.
No, I try to add in some variety. I do. When's the last time I talked about Grand Teton?
This morning over breakfast when we were talking about where to get a good oil change. Grand Teton.
Oh, yeah, Jackson has a really great Jiffy Lube. We should go there.
Yes, exactly.
No, okay, so I was thinking about this question and I thought there's a lot of national parks that have good snowshoeing, I'm sure.
Yeah,
but
I think that's true.
As we're talking about our own personal experience and where we like to go, like Grand Teton, you can go there. We go for the Pedigree Stage Stop, which is their dog sled race that goes through that area.
Goes through all around Wyoming, and it's so cool.
It's really fun. So we usually go out to Grand Teton at the end of January for that race. And then we do snowshoe, and there's lots of good options for snowshoeing. We also really love cross-country skiing, and there's lots of good options for that. So Grand Teton does an awesome job of they groom the park road that is closed during the winter. They groom it for skiing and snowshoeing. And then we also just really love going up to Taggart Lake, which is a really cool hike in the summer, but you can snowshoe to it or ski to it in the winter.
And sometimes you can even get away with not even wearing snowshoes because Taggart Lake is a very popular winter destination hike. Sometimes it gets packed down enough that you just take off your snowshoes and you hike to it in your snow boots.
Yeah.
It was really cool.
But we took our kids up there this last January in their snowshoes, and it was awesome. It was so much fun, and they loved just being out there. And we saw 8 moose. I think we saw so many moose.
Yeah,
this last
broke
time in
my
the park.
streak.
I know.
I was on a no moose spotting streak, and Ash thought that I was cursing our family somehow. And so
he was he scares away all the moose, and I was like, I feel like I'm never gonna see a moose again.
But I don't know why. It's not like I don't know. I haven't done anything in particular
I know.
to offend the moose, I don't think.
But we saw a bunch this last time. So Grand Teton, Jackson, it's alive and kicking during the winter. There's so much going on. There's a ton of ski resorts. The town is open. Everything's open. And so that remains a favorite for sure for winter travel if you're looking to snowshoe.
I think our other one would have to be Bryce, though, right?
Yeah, so that was my second choice. Bryce Canyon is a great option in the winter. You can snowshoe or hike down into the hoodoos. You can pretty much do everything you can do during the summer in the winter, almost, except for Wall Street.
It's the shoulder seasons that are a little tricky, though, right? Because the last answer, we mentioned almost all of the Utah parks except for Bryce Canyon in the spring, and it's because it's mud season.
Yeah.
In Bryce Canyon, but it's perfect in the winter time because everything is frozen solid and you actually would be better off with snowshoes or yak tracks than you would be with regular shoes. And so it's just super cool.
Yeah, this last time we went, it was more icy than snowy. We usually go to Bryce Canyon every other winter or so. We're down there pretty often, and we just had to use yak tracks instead of snowshoes, but still there's nothing like it being down in those red hoodoos covered in glistening snow. It's like a fairyland. It is so beautiful. Oh, there is a place called Fairyland in Bryce Canyon. Did you notice?
Oh, and then you go back to Ruby's Inn and there's Christmas stuff everywhere all the time, and it's just
they do ice skating and horse-drawn carriage rides and snowmobiling, and there's tons of stuff.
It's like what's that Christmas song? It's like a something print. I don't remember. It's the shoot. Come on. It's where it's the person that paints really pretty pictures. Do you remember that in the Christmas song? Someone's going to know what I'm talking about.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
It's going to come to me in 5 minutes on the next question or whatever, and I'm just going to sing it. It's going to be golden.
Oh my gosh. Those are our 2 favorite winter parks, I would say, for snowshoeing and getting outside and being on the trail and still seeing some really cool stuff. Okay. Next question. We added a couple more today, so this episode will be slightly longer, but I wanted to get to as many as we could. So this next question is from Knowles, and they're wondering if we can help them figure out arrival times / reservation times. She says,
It's like a picture print by Courier and Ives. Yes, I told you. It didn't matter what you were doing. I was going to sing it. It's like a picture print. Yes.
Good job.
Sorry.
That's what Bryce Canyon is like.
Yes. It's a picture print by Courier and Ives.
Whatever that means.
Thanks, Knowles, for your question.
Back to the question. Figuring out arrival times and reservation times. I've gotten lucky by arriving early enough to bypass the reservations needed, and I find the national park site extremely confusing. So you're in luck because that's literally what I put all of my time to in January and February is decoding what they say on the National Park website and then turning it into something that actually makes sense for people. So go to the Dirt in My Shoes YouTube channel. That's where I put up like all the how to get reservations in all the parks that are requiring those. It's extremely stressful for me to do that. And so I do appreciate you actually watching the video because it makes it feel a little more worth it that I am also waking up at 8 a.m. trying to get the glacier entrance reservations with everybody else just so that I can show you how to do it. I'm getting these dang reservations and like stressing all about it and stuff. And anyway, I will walk you through the whole process. I will explain which areas of the parks need the reservations, how to get them, what it looks like. I will show you how to get them. I do it all. So those show up on the Dirt in My Shoes YouTube channel when those reservations start releasing, which is typically like the end of January and into February, kind of that time frame. The other thing I will say about that, you mentioned arrival times, needing help with arrival times. That is exactly what the Dirt in My Shoes itineraries do. And so if you go to the website and up in the corner in the menu, it says trip itineraries. That will show you the parks that I have those for. But those come with an at-a-glance schedule that is just like hour by hour, when to be where, like how long to be in each place, about how long it takes to drive between the different points of interest. It has driving directions. It has explanations about everything. It has maps. It has it all. So
it's been tried and tested as well, not only by our audience and a lot of other people that have gotten the itineraries that we do follow up with a lot, by the way, with the ambassador program, but also Ash has sat in many a parking lot early in the morning to verify and check that these arrival times are accurate. And so we started this entire podcast episode talking about AI and like getting reliable information and stuff like that. You're looking at the source right here. She's very pretty.
Thank you.
I will say sitting in the parking lots is my least favorite part of this job. I hate doing that. It is so painful. But what I do basically is I'm up even before the sun in most cases. I get into the park. I go to the spots that I already know are going to be the busiest or the hardest to get parking at. And I sit there and I watch and see how, like, at what time that parking lot opens or what time that parking lot closes. That what time it fills.
And if you were to be just a park ranger and you just like saw somebody pull in, not even get out of their car, just like pull into a spot and then just like
I'm
sit
like
there.
Eating my granola bar, my sad breakfast. Sometimes I do like Insta story or something and I'll be like, look where I am. I'm sitting at the Delicate Arch parking lot.
She has to wear sunglasses and she's like, 6 o'clock here at the Delicate Arch Trail. Look around. It's pretty funny. It's when Ash is at her best, honestly.
No, it's fine. It's fine. I'm happy to do it because here's the thing. This is truly like my life's mission is to make sure that you, when you go on your trip, have a good time. I want you to love the national parks because if you love the national parks, you will take care of them. You will want to protect them. You will fight for them. You will clean up your trash. You will speak up when people leave the trail. You will make sure you're not carving your name into trees, like all of that crap that happens out in nature. Love a place. When you appreciate that place, when you have a good time there, that is what makes sure that these places stay beautiful and protected. We need people who are their advocates. And so for me to sit in a parking lot on my vacation to a national park and watch and see what time that parking lot fills so that I can tell you to get there before that time, or I can tell you maybe you don't want to go that early in the morning. I watch the parking lots like a hawk throughout the day as we're driving around, as we're doing things. I am taking notes. I am like paying attention to everything to kind of see, oh, it's 3 o'clock. We're passing this parking lot. It's still full. Stuff like that I am making note of. And so when I can share that information with you through the Dirt in My Shoes itineraries, when you can follow a schedule that is going to help you avoid the bulk of the problems that come with crowding and all the people everywhere, then that gives you so much better of an experience in that park. So,
and your whole family.
my end game.
It's amazing.
Yeah, well, and it cuts down on the fighting. Last time we went to Acadia, we saw people get in a screaming fight over our parking spot as we were leaving.
Dukes were raised.
Crazy. And it wasn't like, they weren't like mean looking people. It was like a middle-aged dad with his kids in the car.
I know.
Do you know what I mean?
I know.
Like, he had probably been circling the parking lot for 45 minutes, and he finally like saw us leaving and was in his position to get our spot, and then someone else whipped in there and he just lost it.
I can understand that.
I know it. And that's what we're trying to avoid with these itineraries, because it's like, who wants to go on that vacation? Like, who's going to remember all the fun they had in Acadia? No, they're going to remember the time that their dad got out of the car and cussed out a 20-year-old girl.
Right, exactly. And she cried and everything was bad and everybody was sad. And then one thing I think that everybody in our country can have in common, despite all of our differences, is the national parks. And I'm not saying that it can solve all of our problems, but Ash is doing a lot of good work and bringing people together. And I think that's important, especially this time of year.
Thanks, John. It's very important to me. I do get very passionate about this because it's so important to me that you have a good time while you're there and that you actually enjoy it and that you're able to connect with nature and feel that healing power. And just, you need to fill yourself up mentally and spiritually as well as physically. And I feel like the national parks can do all. So,
and that comes back to good information. And that's what Dirt in My Shoes is all about.
And I will say, if you don't care to have like the at a glance schedule, like the hour by hour schedule, you can find so much good free information on my YouTube channel or here on the podcast or just dirtinmyshoes.com. I have a ton of articles, especially for those main big busy parks. So there are so many options to you because, like I said, it's just super important to me that you have a good time. Thanks for the question. I appreciate it. I will get off my high horse. I stepped on a pedestal, but it matters to me. It matters to me so much. There's nothing that makes me more sad than like when people come home and they're like, we just went to Yellowstone, but we hated it because it was just people everywhere. And I was like, you hated Yellowstone? Because I used to feel that way too. It was like,
what a wasted opportunity.
I know. And it's like, Yellowstone is seriously one of the coolest places on the planet. Mm-hmm. So if you hate it, then you're doing it wrong.
Yes, exactly.
You should not be hating that place.
Yes.
And so anyway, I've just made it my life's mission to make sure that you don't hate your experience in places like that. So, okay. Last question. This is an easy one and one that I think is really exciting and fun to talk about. So we have this question from Bradley. And he says, do you guys collect any mementos or souvenirs from your national park visits?
Yes and yes. We collect a lot. My favorite would be Christmas ornaments.
That's our main collection.
Yeah.
What else do we collect?
Junior
Ranger badges, I guess.
Junior Ranger badges, but shot glasses.
Patches? Shot glasses.
I had shot glasses that I kind of stopped collecting those as much because
you only need so many shot glasses. We don't need any more.
There's a lot more room on a Christmas tree for lots and lots of ornaments than there is in my single cupboard where I have my shot glasses. I get one spot for my shot glasses and it's basically full. So I've got to be pretty choosy now. But the Christmas tree, we have a whole separate Christmas tree just for our travel in national parks.
But not just our travel. Like we've reached the point where we have so many ornaments from the national parks. That's all that's on that tree. It's only national park ornaments. And so we have a whole tree in our living room that it's beautiful and it has all of our national park ornaments. And when we get those ornaments out every year, we put them up as a family and we reminisce on all the trips we've gone on and like the things we remember and the things we loved. And why we bought that particular ornament to remind us of something that happened while we were there. That has become my favorite Christmas tradition.
Yep.
Getting out those ornaments and talking about all our travels with our kids.
Yeah. And we are kind of choosy about what we'll actually buy. And so like if we went to Acadia and didn't see a moose, we wouldn't buy a moose ornament. Or if we went to Yellowstone and we didn't see a bear, but we saw wolves, we buy a wolf ornament. So it does help prompt the memories as well. And it's super fun.
Yeah. So we do that. We've done that for years and years. I would say my one regret as far as mementos goes is I wish that I would have started a passport book with the national park stamps. I wish I would have done that. At the time when we really started like hitting the national parks hard and trying to get to as many as we could, it just didn't seem important.
We were too far in. It's like when you've been talking to somebody for a couple of weeks and you forgot their name. It's just too late to ask. It's too late to start a passport.
That's how I feel, because it's like, I mean, we'll go back to a lot of these anyway, so we probably should just start it. But it kind of feels too late because we've been going to the national parks for so long now and we didn't start it when we should have. So that would be like, if you're just starting your national park journey and you're looking for something fun to remember all of your visits and stuff, I would absolutely 100% like start a passport book, because that is a regret of mine. It's a bummer, but we do love the ornaments. The ornaments are super fun, and I highly recommend doing something like that.
Yeah.
We have a national park gift guide on the website that will show you kind of all of our favorite national park gifts, or things that I've just bought for myself that I'm like, nobody's going to give these to me, but I love national parks. So we have that. And then I also, something new I did this year was I got on Amazon and made my own storefront, like full of all of our favorite stuff. So there's a ton of stuff in there. Just mention that because if you're looking for something to get started, or if you're really wanting to turn into a parkie, then there's some lists and some items and stuff in there, including like the passport book and stuff like that. Some hiking logs, journal type things, really cool books to read, stuff like that would just be fun to kind of indoctrinate yourself even further into the national park life.
Yes, exactly. And Ash teases me because I used to have like all of my t-shirts that were any good, that didn't have like rips and stuff like that, were all national park t-shirts. And so that was like the only thing that I had. There's a couple of brands that are really fun because you can't get those national park t-shirts online. You can only get them in the national park gift shops.
Yeah, it's Wild Tribute. They have some really great shirts, but they don't sell all of their really good ones online. You have to get them in the gift shops. So stuff like that. I don't know. We're so deep into the national park system and community. And so you'll learn kind of as you get more into it what kind of mementos you want. And like I said, like some people get super intense about their passport books.
Yeah.
As in like, it does not count. Like they have not visited that park until they get their stamp.
Yes, exactly.
Or a lot of people like to take pictures in front of the national park signs, which is really fun. Like it doesn't count. We haven't been here until we get our family picture in front of the sign. Stuff like that. Like you'll just find as you get more and more into the national park life that you'll kind of find your thing, because you definitely do want to have a way to keep track of where you've been and to remember all the good stuff. So
something funny. I think before we got married, the most common memento that Ash had from a lot of her travels was like pictures of her chacos in different national parks or different places. Do you remember that, Ash?
I had a blog, my very first blog.
That's right.
It was called Wandering Chaco Prints.
That's right. Oh my gosh.
But then when I started Dirt in My Shoes, I was like, I got to change the name because Chaco might sue me for using their name in my blog.
So basically, every website Ash has ever started has been somehow about feet, which is really interesting.
My feet are very important to me. I love hiking is my favorite thing, so.
How beautiful upon the mountains are Ash's chacos.
Oh my gosh. Well, I hope you find what memento you want to get as you travel around the parks. But it is a really fun thing. I think all of us who love the national parks would agree that you kind of have to find your thing and get something to remember all your trips by. So Those are our 5 questions. Mail from the trail today. I wish I was on the trail.
I know.
Hopefully you guys are out on the trail. We're getting close to our 100th episode. Do you know our 100th episode is next week?
That's crazy.
Then we're going to break for the year and we'll be back in January. But we just want to give a big shout out to all of you guys. You're the best. Thank you so much for listening. You've turned this podcast into something I think we never dared dream it would be. And it's so fun to connect with you. If you have any questions, again, go over to the Dirt in My Shoes Instagram. Do like question and answer sessions kind of like this every few months. And it also just gives you a chance to see what we're up to. So head over there. Thank you so much. If you love the podcast, please leave us a 5-star review. And we will see you out on the trail.